Ah, there you are, my friend. Come and sit with me for a while. The fire is calm tonight. It burns low and steady, as though it knows there is no need to rush. Let your hands rest where they are. Let your shoulders ease, just a little. There is nothing you need to remember, and nothing you need to prepare for. The night has already taken care of those things. Tonight I'll tell you a story from the magical forest of Whispergrove. A small story at first. The kind that begins quietly and grows only if it needs to. It is the story of a mossling who wandered too far, and of how being found does not always begin with knowing where home is. You need not listen closely. If your thoughts drift, let them. The forest does not mind. That evening, Whispergrove was wrapped in a gentle stillness that felt deeper than usual. The mist lay low among the roots, moving slowly, as if uncertain where it wished to settle. Moonlight filtered down through the canopy in pale, broken strands, touching leaves and stones without lingering. Everything felt softened, as though the forest itself had decided to rest. I walked without purpose, my staff tapping lightly against the moss-covered ground. These were my favourite walks, the ones with no destination waiting at the end. Whispergrove often speaks most clearly when it is not being asked for answers. The air carried the familiar scent of damp earth and old bark, layered with a faint sweetness that hinted at night-blooming flowers opening somewhere unseen. Fireflies drifted lazily between the ferns, their glow slow and unhurried, appearing and disappearing like thoughts that no longer demand attention. I had gone no great distance when I sensed something out of place. It was not a sound at first, but a feeling, a subtle shift in the rhythm of the forest. Whispergrove has many voices, and I have learned to notice when one does not belong. I stopped and listened. At first there was only the usual hush, the distant settling of branches, the soft breath of mist moving through the undergrowth. Then, beneath it all, I heard it. A small, uneven sound, fragile and uncertain, as though it had not yet decided whether it should exist at all. It came again, barely louder than before, a soft whimper low to the ground. Loneliness has a sound of its own. I turned toward it and moved carefully, parting fern fronds and low branches with slow, deliberate hands. The mist thickened slightly as I stepped off the faint path, and the fireflies seemed to gather ahead of me, their glow growing denser, as though curious about what I was about to find. The sound led me to a shallow hollow between the roots of an ancient tree, its trunk wide and twisted with age. There, nestled against the damp earth, sat a mossling. It was smaller than I expected, no taller than my knee, its round body covered in living moss that shimmered faintly in the moonlight. Tiny leaves and pale spores clung to its fur, and its ears twitched at the slightest movement. Its eyes were large and dark, reflecting the light of the fireflies, and when it looked up at me, I saw fear and hope resting side by side. The mossling sniffled softly, drawing its little paws closer to its chest, as though trying to make itself even smaller. It had the look of a creature that had waited a long time for someone to notice it, and had nearly given up. I did not step closer. Mosslings are gentle by nature, but easily startled, especially when alone. Instead, I spoke quietly, keeping my voice low and even. "Well now," I said, "it seems you've wandered farther than you meant to." The mossling's ears flicked toward me. It tilted its head, watching closely. It did not run. though every part of it seemed ready to do so. That hesitation told me more than words could have. I lowered myself onto a fallen log a short distance away, setting my staff carefully beside me so it would not seem like a barrier. The forest seemed to notice the shift. The fireflies dimmed their glow just slightly, and the mist slowed, as though pausing to observe. "I won't come any closer," I said gently. "You're safe where you are." The Mossling's breathing eased by the smallest amount. It did not uncurl completely, but the tightness in its posture softened, as though it had decided to listen. We sat there in quiet company, neither of us in a hurry. Whispergrove is generous with time, and I have learned not to waste that gift. The forest held us both, the tree's roots rising around the hollow like patient arms. After a while, the Mossling shifted. It adjusted its weight and lifted its head higher, studying me with open curiosity. Then it made a small sound, not a cry, but something closer to a question. Mosslings do not speak as we do. Their language is woven from movement, sound, and the subtle changes in the living moss that grows upon them. I watched as the green along its back brightened slightly, then dimmed again like a slow breath. "You're lost," I said quietly, not as a question, but an understanding. The Mossling let out a soft churr and nodded, a tiny, full-bodied motion that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside it. Its eyes glistened, and it looked away briefly, as though embarrassed by the admission. "That's all right," I said. "Being lost happens more often than most are willing to admit." The Mossling shuffled forward a few careful steps, not toward me, but closer than before. Trust, I have found, rarely moves in straight lines. I extended one hand slowly and rested it on the moss between us, palm open and still. "I don't know where your home is," I said, "but Whispergrove remembers its own." The Mossling leaned forward, sniffing the air. After a moment it toddled closer until its nose hovered just above my fingers. The moss along its fur shimmered softly, responding to something unseen. It made a calmer sound then, and turned its head to glance back into the forest, toward the deeper paths. Then it looked at me again. "You want me to follow you," I said. The Mossling bobbed eagerly, relief brightening the green along its back, and turned to waddle away, pausing every few steps to make sure I was still there. I rose carefully and followed, matching its pace as we moved deeper into Whispergrove together, the forest closing gently around us, as though approving of the choice. The Mossling led the way with quiet determination, its small body swaying gently as it moved through the undergrowth. It did not hurry, and neither did I. Each step it took seemed chosen with care, as though the forest itself were speaking softly to it, offering guidance only it could hear. Now and then it paused. Sometimes it lifted its head to sniff the air, moss rippling faintly along its back. Other times it simply stood still, listening. Each pause felt important, not as an obstacle, but as part of the journey itself. Whenever it stopped, it looked back at me, its dark eyes searching for reassurance. "I'm here," I said quietly each time, though the words felt unnecessary. Still, I spoke them. Some promises are worth repeating. Whispergrove adjusted itself around us as we moved. Branches lifted just enough to let us pass, without brushing too close. Roots curved subtly beneath the moss, making the path easier for small feet. The ground felt softer here, as though the forest wished to ease the Mossling's return. Fireflies gathered more densely as we went, their lights drifting lazily around the mossling like quiet companions. A few hovered close, reflecting in its wide eyes. It watched them with gentle fascination, and, for the first time since I had found it, I heard a sound that was not tinged with sadness, a soft, contented chirr. We came upon a narrow stream not long after, its surface smooth and dark, reflecting the canopy above so clearly it looked like another forest beneath our feet. The water moved slowly, murmuring against stones worn smooth by time. The mossling hesitated at the edge. Its paws curled slightly into the moss, and it leaned back, uncertain. "There's no hurry," I said, kneeling beside it. "The water isn't going anywhere." The stream seemed to agree, flowing patiently, unconcerned with our presence. After a moment, the mossling stepped forward, testing the first stone with careful weight. It wobbled slightly, then steadied itself. When it slipped just a little, it reached out instinctively, pressing a paw against my finger. I held still, offering balance but not control. After a breath, it found its footing again and continued one stone at a time until it reached the far bank. It turned and chirred softly, pride glowing faintly through its moss. We continued on, and as we did, the forest began to change. The moss grew thicker and brighter beneath our feet, its green deepening into rich, living tones. The air warmed subtly, carrying the comforting scent of damp earth and old leaves, layered with something sweeter and more familiar. The mossling's steps became lighter, more confident, its ears perked forward, and its entire body seemed to glow with recognition. "We're getting close," I murmured. The mossling responded with a soft, breathy sound, and picked up its pace slightly, though it never ran. Some places, I have learned, are meant to be approached slowly, with care and respect. Soon the trees parted into a small clearing, so well hidden it felt less like something discovered and more like something revealed. The ground was carpeted in the thickest moss I had ever seen, glowing softly from within, pulsing in a slow, steady rhythm like a sleeping heart. Nestled among roots and low stones were mossling dwellings, rounded hollows shaped by growth rather than hands, woven from living moss, leaves and fine roots. A warm, gentle light glimmered faintly inside them, suggesting life at rest. At the sound of the small mossling's happy chirr, others emerged. They were larger and calmer, their moss darker and richer, their movements slow and assured. A low chorus of gentle sounds filled the clearing, not loud, not excited, but heavy with relief. The little mossling hurried forward and disappeared into the waiting group, chirring joyfully now, its earlier fear completely gone. Several mosslings gathered around it at once, touching it gently with paws and noses, their moss brightening as though sharing warmth. I remained at the edge of the clearing, instinctively understanding that this moment was not meant for me to enter. Some reunions are sacred because they are private. After a while, one of the larger mosslings stepped forward. It moved with deliberate calm, its presence steady and reassuring. An elder, perhaps. It regarded me with clear, thoughtful eyes, then bowed its head slowly. I returned the gesture, placing my hand over my heart. From the moss along its side, the elder carefully drew forth a small object and held it out toward me. It was simple, yet clearly cherished. A smooth piece of bark, worn thin with age, etched with faint patterns of leaves and roots. At its centre rested a tiny, dried moss bud, preserved with care, still holding a trace of green. I accepted it gently, feeling its warmth against my palm. "This carries meaning," I said softly. The elder Mossling placed a paw briefly over the token, then over its own chest, and finally gestured toward me. Understanding came easily, settling without effort. "A reminder," I murmured, "of finding one another again." The Mossling's eyes softened, and it inclined its head once more. I did not linger. Some gifts are given not to bind, but to remember. I stepped back slowly, offering one final bow to the Mossling family. The little Mossling glanced back once, its eyes bright and content, before disappearing into the gentle glow of its home. The forest closed softly behind me as I turned away, the clearing hidden once more from all but those who belonged there. The token rested warmly in my pocket as I walked, light in weight but heavy with meaning. The path back felt easier, though it had not changed. I suspect it was I who had. By the time I returned to the fire, the night had deepened fully. The embers glowed low and steady, casting slow shadows that rose and fell with the quiet breath of the flame. And that is how I helped a lost Mossling find its way home. I did not gain riches that night, no gold, no great reward. But I was given something far rarer, a reminder that even the smallest kindness can mean everything to someone who has wandered too far. The fire settles lower now, content and warm. Your breathing slows, finding a rhythm that asks nothing of you. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to search for. Outside the circle of firelight, Whispergrove breathes easily, whole and at rest. The trees stand quietly. The paths wait patiently. I'll remain here a while longer, tending the embers, listening to the night as it carries on without hurry. You are safe to sleep. May you always find your way home, even when you do not yet know you are lost. And may kindness meet you gently whenever you wander. Good night, my friend. Let the forest hold you now, until morning come.